Do you remember when we first started dating? We low-key were tripping.
Very much
Like,
so.
tripping the first 6 months we dated.
5 months.
Because it was low-key lustful. If you're with somebody, they should be helping you be your best self. They should be helping you grow and want to see you grow, not pushing and pulling you back further away from all that you want to do.
If a guy doesn't honor your purity when you're dating, he cannot honor your heart when you're married.
What's up, fam? Welcome back to our channel. My name is Tim. This is my beautiful wife, Pauline, and you're tuning in to another episode of the W Podcast, where you get wisdom in a word with the
Wheeler.
Hey, so we are excited to have y'all back. And babe, it's crazy, because do you remember when we first started dating?
10 years ago.
Like, that's crazy.
Almost.
That's how old are you?
Oh
That's
my
crazy.
God.
So, but seriously, do you remember when we first started dating? We low-key were tripping.
Very much
Like,
so.
tripping the first 6 months we dated.
5 months.
Because it was low-key lustful. Low-key lustful. Now, I don't mean that we had sex, because we didn't. But it was not... That's the thing, too. We just get all the way there off the jump. Just because you're not having sex doesn't mean your relationship isn't lustful. Because lust is not about the actual act of sex, as Jesus taught us. It's if you even look at a woman lustfully with your heart. And we'll get into what that means, but I just had to say that off the top because it just came to my mind. But today we really want to break down the difference between real love, lust, and the lies that we've believed growing up, whether it's through the shows we watched, the books we read, the couples that we saw, and how do you tell which one you're in?
Yeah. It can be very difficult.
Yeah. And let's just be honest.
Yes.
You don't have to answer this question, but you may be watching this by yourself, so you can be honest with yourself. Have you ever wanted to date somebody because they were fine? Like, that's it. Like, you didn't have peace about it. You don't even know if they were smart, but they was fine.
Yeah, I want that. I need that. That's what people say now.
Well, that was that viral TikTok.
I don't know how viral it was, but anyway.
You told me about it. I didn't see it. Yeah, anyway, y'all be careful out here at these churches, man.
Oh.
So, babe, can you explain to people why this matters? Like, why does identifying if something is love versus lust important? Because at the end of the day, I don't want to marry somebody who's ugly or I don't find attractive.
Yeah.
But how do I balance that with knowing if I'm actually with them because I love them versus lust? But I just met them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very easy in this day and age and growing up, if you're already grown or if you're still growing up, media does a really good job of selling sex to us and making us think that sex and this passion, this attraction, like physical attraction to somebody means love. Like, you can't be in love with somebody if you're not physically attracted to them. And of course, the attraction is a big part of marriage and sex and all, and like God made us all beautiful, right? Because he wants us to be drawn to one another in marriage. Or that's one of the reasons. But, and you might be thinking, like, I just enjoy God's creation. You know, I'm just a man. I'm just a woman. I'm just out here, like, look at what God made. Like, this is so beautiful.
Go look at the trees.
And that's true. That is very true.
You love creation so much. Go in the mountains.
But the problem lies because of sin. Because love and lust a lot of times can look very similar, and it can be very confusing. If you are attracted to someone and drawn to them physically, that you think like, oh, I love them. And it can also be the reverse too in marriage, when you've already made the decision to be married to someone, be committed to them, being covenant, and you think like, oh, I'm not attracted to them anymore, the love is gone, this marriage must be over. And it's like, that's not what love is. And Jesus, of course, demonstrated that to us on the cross, and the Bible tells us that God so loved the world that he gave, and it doesn't say that God so loved the world that he was attracted to the world. And like, it's always so fascinating to me, you know, because maybe we talk about relationships and this is what God has called us to, but thinking about Jesus as being the flesh and blood version of love that walked the earth and died for our sins. He was never married, never had sex, never participated in that type of expression of love. But then, like, and we all know that, right? And we all, like, respect that. We're like, yeah, you know, part of you couldn't be me. You know, I couldn't do it, Lord, but, like, good for you. But then we think about like what does love really mean to us, and like how is it expressed. And a lot of guys kind of, even Christian guys would say that too, like, oh, you know, touch is my love language, this is how I express my love for you, da da da. And like, sure, like that's a part of it, but of course it's not the only way to express your love. And we also use the word love in like romantic context the same way we use like love for our parents or love for our children, or even like some people say in Western culture we use the word love too much, like, oh, I love these chips, or I love this pillow, and it's like, do you really love it, or is it just something that you really enjoy?
Yeah.
So it can be very confusing the way that we use the word love and how it is marketed to us, and just what we believe and think about it, and then oftentimes does not line up with God's love. And then, you know, because we have God's love over here, which is pure, and there's no like sex involved, you know, at all with agape love and Jesus and the way that the Lord loves us. And then we have this, you know, highly attracted or like highly physical kind of charged love with the media, and which really is lust. That's disguised as love. And then we have, you know, marriage just somewhere in the middle, where it's like a kind of a combination of both in a way, if we're being honest. Because like, what's the difference between lust and, you know, you being attracted to your spouse, or you being attracted to the person that you're dating, even if you're not having sex or, you know, sinning in that way. It can be very confusing.
And let me just say, I think you bring up a point. I could see somebody listening to this, and maybe you're watching and you're like, all right, yeah, you just mentioned how if you're married, there's an attraction there. Well, if I'm dating somebody, it's because I'm attracted to them.
Right.
And hear our heart, we're not saying that you should not be attracted to the person you're dating. We hope that you are attracted to the person that you're dating.
Yeah.
But there is a healthy balance that you are able to find in having an attraction for somebody and thinking that they're beautiful, thinking that they're amazing to look at, and then lusting after them. And we'll break down what that looks like, because a lot of times people confuse chemistry with clarity in relationships, meaning what we want so desperately is to make sure that me and this person have chemistry. That's why some people may want to live together, to make sure that it fits right, instead of having clarity of, is this the person that God wants me to move forward with, and why is this person actually good for me to be able to accomplish all that God has called me to in this life. And that's our whole goal of this podcast. If you don't get nothing else, we want to help you feel confident that you can tell the difference between lust and love. And can you break it down to us, babe? What is lust all about?
Yeah, so lust, because sometimes it's like a confusing word, or a word we don't hear a lot in media, in culture, but lust is about possession. I want this. I saw something and I took it. I saw her and I went after her. There was no prayer. There was no wisdom. There was no. And that's kind of, I always like to think about it the same way of like, oh, if you meet somebody at Starbucks and you ask them out to dinner or whatever, or ask for their number, a lot of times that's driven by lust, because all you're doing is like, you just saw a stranger, like, you don't know anything about them. You saw something and you liked it and you went after it. So that's what lust is all about: possession, about like you getting what you want and kind of feeling like ownership, versus love is more about partnership, like we're working together. It's give and take. It is kind of like a purposeful walking together. We're accomplishing something together. We're on mission, hopefully for Jesus. And that's, really the big difference.
And lust, just if you want like an actual definition, if you Google it yourself, the noun for it is very strong sexual desire. The verb is have a very strong sexual desire for somebody. So you are just, it's in one version I've seen is it's a very intense or unusually intense or unbridled sexual desire for somebody. So that's the actual definition for it. And for men, I don't know about women. You speak for women on what lust looks like, because I feel like that's different. Or I don't know if it's different. But for men, I know for sure that lust is more about, can I conquer?
Yeah. Like
so lust can be more about, I conquered her than I serve her, which love is. And one thing that can really illustrate this, babe, if you've seen the movie Hitch,
which obviously you have if you're over 10 years old.
That's probably not true.
20.
But there's a scene in the movie Hitch where there's this guy who comes to Hitch, Will Smith, in the movie, and is like, there's this girl, I need to be with her. I gotta have her. Food has lost its taste. I can't breathe. I can't do all of this, yada, yada, yada. And Will Smith just sitting there like, wow, okay. And then the guy is like, yeah, I don't think I'll be able to get over this until I bang her. And it's just like, whoa. And Will Smith from The Hitch, the character was like, sorry, I work with clients who actually like women. Right. And the whole point of that is like, he had no desire to serve her, to cherish her. His only desire was to conquer. Yeah. Literally, that's what he said. Like, once I check this off my box, I will feel accomplished and move on. And that's what he did in the movie.
Yeah, it's very much like, it reminds me of a lot of language in college that you hear, or that I heard of, like, you know, adding another notch to your belt, or like, how many body counts do you have? Like, things like that. That's all lustful things. That's all about sex. It's not about the person. Or it's about, like, oh, how many numbers did you get? That's another example of lust, too, because it's not about, like, the individual. Oh, I met Sally, and Sally was wonderful, and I came to get to know her more. It's more about, like, oh, look at my accomplishments. How many numbers I got. It's very selfish, self-centered, more about you and like what you can do, what you've done, and how desired you are, kind of like your, not authority, but kind of like your dominance, I would say. And for women, I mean, lust, obviously, I think a lot of times it's a lot of like on the receiving end, but it's tough because there are gender roles, or what's the word, gender disparities, double standards, things like that, because definitely for women, lust is not as dominant, or it's not as like, look what I can do. You don't see very many women boasting about their body counts, and things like that. I think for women, a lot of times it is more of like getting your worth from like your sexual power, and like, you know, feeling like, okay, I could get a guy to do X, Y, and Z because he wants something that I have, type of thing. But in the end, it makes you feel like crap. So,
yeah. And a lot of times in lust, you can know that it's a situation is lustful essentially because it just moves fast. It lacks depth.
It's a hard word for him to say.
It is. I don't know why.
That ambiguity was last.
No, I know I say ambiguity. Stop! You making me no, bruh. Ambiguity. Don't play me. So confident. Ambiguity. You're not about to play me on this podcast.
Ambiguity.
Yo. Anyway.
I like the baby.
So, woo, love Jesus. We keep it fun and holy on the W podcast. But lust, it helps you move fast, it lacks depth, and it isolates.
Yeah, just go past really fast. It's like somebody reading the Bible, cities and names that are hard to say.
And it creates a spiritual fog, essentially. And the danger in creating a spiritual fog in your life is God has to remove himself. Because God is holy. And God is not going to just sit around and be in the presence of things that are opposite completely to him. We're not saying that God won't love you.
Right.
Or we're just saying that his presence, his peace, his favor, his love, his joy, all of that is not able to be where he's dishonored, essentially.
Well, because when you start prioritizing sin and lust, you're basically telling God that you don't want him there. So it's kind of like, not that he left, but you left. You left where he is. And, you know, if you desire God, which of course you do if you're watching this podcast, and this is just a matter of like, this isn't to shame you or make you feel like, oh, you lustful sinner. This is more about helping you realize, because of course the Bible tells us that the enemy is a deceiver and he wants us to live in deception, and he comes in very sneakily, and he is very, how do you say it, like, just very sneaky, and he wants you to think that lust looks like love. Oh, this guy is texting you at 1 a.m. Oh, how sweet, that's so nice. It's like, is this a booty call? Like, why are you texting me at this time? So that's what we don't want you guys to feel shame if this is something that you're realizing, like, oh, this kind of sounds like my life. It's more about like, oh, okay, now let me step away. You know, the Bible says to come out from among them and be thee separate. You can't know better if you don't do better. So our hope is that you would be able to recognize this, and that the Holy Spirit would convict you if you have some of these patterns in your life.
Yeah, and growing up, like, lust was a huge thing where I grew up. Like, whether it's a woman walking by or a girl when growing up, and you're like, hey, yo, look at that, and your head turning all day. And it's crazy because that led into my relationships as I grew older. Because, to be honest, the only reason I wanted a girlfriend in high school or college before I got saved was really just to have sex. Like, I wanted somebody that it was a guarantee, a lock, if we just going to keep it 100, to be able to have sex with.
A sex slave.
No, you're tripping. I didn't say that.
I'm not laughing because that's funny, but that's what it sounds like.
No, it was just like, yeah, like, you know what it is, she know what it is, we good. And the bad,
you know why you're here.
The bad part about that is
so messed up.
It leads to a lot of key red flags. Girl, you want to share what you were doing in high school?
That's fine, but I did not think of relationships in that way in high school.
You thought of it, baby?
I did not think
this.
Like, oh, if I have a boyfriend, it's so that we can have sex.
How did you think about keeping them?
How
did you think about keeping them?
There were relationships.
How did you think about keeping
them?
them?
But I got to a point in my relationship where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore, and he was like, okay, great, and it never happened again.
At some point, you thought that's how you keep a man.
Right.
Okay.
But
so we both had our nonsense. But hey, I'm trying to get to a point. So lust is not a great driver in a relationship. And some key red flags to help you know, because I'm going to be honest. I know everybody watching this is not all the way there yet. You're still in process. You're still figuring out your walk with Christ. And we want to help you the next time you find yourself in a situationship or just a situation in general where maybe you met somebody on a dating app, or maybe you met somebody in the real world, that still happens at a coffee shop or Home Depot or whatever.
Home Depot?
I know, right?
Wow, homeowner.
And you don't really know this person, or even if they go to your church,
yeah.
Like, you are starting to get to know somebody. How do you know if this person is trying to move more towards lust than towards getting to know you and hopefully falling in love? Couple key red flags. First one is obsession with physical touch. All they want to do is touch you. All they want to do is rub and hug and all of these things. And it's like, yo, can we, like, what's your middle name? Like, I don't even know you like that. Can we, like, slow down a little bit? The second thing is zero spiritual conversations. So you don't know when they got saved, how they got saved. You don't know
if they're saved.
You don't know what Jesus actually means to them. They don't know what Jesus means to you. Like, it hasn't come up. I don't even know if you said the name God or Jesus in a conversation with this person. And if you're truly trying to have a godly relationship, because that's what we talk about on this podcast, that needs to come up pretty quickly. Like, God needs to be at the center of even you all talking and getting to know each other. We're not saying that God and Jesus need to be literally in every conversation, but at some point, baby, stop. Every conversation.
Most of them.
Baby, stop. At some point, there needs to be a clear conversation about, yo, what you about? Like, I need to know. And I was talking to somebody at church actually yesterday about how when you and I first, like, before we ever went on a real date, we went out to Panera.
Yes.
And had to, like, yo, what is this relationship?
Right.
Not even what is a relationship, but what are we doing?
What is this? Yeah.
And I don't remember really saying it, but you told me, I asked you, who knows that we're here?
Yes.
And the reason I asked that wasn't because I didn't want people to know that you were out with me and I was trying to be on a secret tip.
You want me to hide
I wanted to make sure you had people in your life who knew what you were doing and who were praying for you and covering you, because I wanted to be in a relationship that was spiritually trying to honor the Lord. Mm-hmm. So that's important. Make sure you're having some spiritual conversations that are uplifting and talking about Jesus. The third thing, you don't want to be involved in community at all. Mm-hmm. They don't want to be involved in community. It ties into the second point we just said. But if you think about me when I was in high school and college, I definitely, all three of these, I was just breaking all the rules. It was.
You didn't know.
I didn't, or I did, but I chose to ignore it.
You think you knew all these when you were in high school?
Like, you know in your heart a lot of times that what you're doing is wrong. Like, I knew in my heart I wasn't really supposed to be having sex before marriage, but because I did not have a relationship with the Lord, I was able to shut that out most times. Like, most of the times, I'm able to quelch that feeling that you feel inside. Because a lot of, yeah. I can say big words.
Is that a big word?
No,
or is it an uncommon word?
It's not, but...
Quench your thirst? Good for you. Quelch is a verb meaning to suppress, silence, or crush something.
Oh, you thought I didn't know what it meant?
No,
you check it for yourself?
It's not an everyday word that you use.
Yeah, because it's like that. It just comes up. I gotta show these people. I know
the word of the day on your calendar. Did you take it off this week?
No, I don't need that. It's in here. But anyway,
it doesn't make any sense.
On a serious note, you want to make sure that you're in a relationship where those three things are not popping up, because it's clearly somebody who is not. God is not the priority of their life. And I want to read a verse, 1 Corinthians 13:4. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud. That's love. Love is patient. Lust rushes. Remember that. Lust will try to rush you to get where you want to go. It's funny because a lot of times we think about lust and we think about sex and purity, but the Bible says that there's three types of sin.
Lust of the eye, yeah.
Lust of the eye, lust of the flesh, the pride of life.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, there's a verse that talks about how Satan, when Jesus was on the earth, tried to tempt Jesus. And one of the things he did was look at all of these kingdoms.
Yeah.
Look at all of these things in the earth. If you bow down to me, I'll give them to you.
Yeah.
What was he trying to do? He was trying to tempt him with the lust of the eye, what he could see, what he could attain. And he was trying to get him to rush. Because guess what? Jesus was already going to have power and control over everything he saw.
Right.
That's already in the scripture. But the devil was trying to rush him to be able to get it right there in that second. And that would have caused him to sin.
Yeah.
But he knew that he needed to be patient, he needed to be kind, and trust the process. So whenever you are in a relationship, just be mindful. Like, am I rushing?
Yeah. I mean, that even like applies to certain things of like maybe lust. You can lust after items, and like maybe Amazon next day shipping is not the best blessing to your spiritual life. But maybe sometimes you just need to wait before you buy stuff and like make sure you're not operating in lust in other areas of your life too.
Now, if you're in a relationship right now, or if what we're saying, some of these red flags sound familiar, just ask yourself when you're in this situation, am I moving in love or lust? Next time you meet somebody, next time you're out, right now, when you texting your boo, like, is this relationship moving me towards love or lust? That's a question that you can ask yourself to help you slow down a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now, were you going to say something?
Well, I was going to say, it's so interesting because, like, for us in our story, you know, within, like, 6 months of us dating, we knew we wanted to be married. But that wasn't God's, you know, plan for us to get married that fast. And sometimes Christians can have this reputation of, like, oh, we want to get married so we don't burn. And, like, obviously you should not date longer than you need to because, yeah, like, that is obviously a thing. But that's not the reason why you get married. But I think that a lot of times you don't let lust be your motivation for getting married either, where you're like, oh, well, let's just hurry up and get married because I really want to be with you. Because that's obviously detrimental as well, because like sexual attraction does not keep your marriage strong either. So that should be your motivator. And like, you know, there is a beauty, and we learned so much in the 2.5 years that we were dating and engaged before we got married, and having to exercise self-control and adjust our boundaries and have hard conversations and all these other things. Like, you learn so much in the process. And like, even thinking about, like, you're talking about lusting and rushing and all of, like, that's an indicator of lust is rushing. And even just thinking about, like, you know, not rushing through certain stages of your life, not rushing through singleness, and like trying to just date anybody so that you can not be single anymore. Not that you guys are doing that, but just saying, like, there's beauty in the waiting, and like, it's hard and it is very nice, but like, you know, especially if you live in Western culture in the United States, like, we're very used to those kind of like immediate satisfaction, and like delayed gratification has so much fruit in it. And of course we see that in the dating process, but that's how you know, like, the opposite of if that's God's way of process and waiting and sanctifying, like, the opposite of that is not going to be God. Whereas like rushing, like that immediate kind of getting what you want, like, that's kind of a sign. And if you're not with somebody who's willing to suffer with you, and that's another reason why cohabitating is not good, and like playing house or having sex before marriage, all those things, because you're not growing. Like, forget the sin part of it is bad in and of itself, but also you're missing out on character development and strengthening your faith and your character and your ability to suffer well and to wait. So it's just, that's just another thing to think about.
Yeah, so let's move on to, we talked about lust, what that looks like, how to make sure you're not falling into that. But now we want to talk about lies. What are some lies that we may be telling ourselves, believing, to either keep us in a relationship that is not best for us or to keep us away from a relationship that could be good for us? What's kind of the first lie that we can really believe?
That we project potential instead of facing patterns.
What do you mean by that?
I love this because, like, it's very easy, especially for us as women, to like look at a guy and think that he's a project and say like, oh, well, he does this, I could help him make it better, because we're helpers. You know, God made us that way. God made us to make things better. And do you need to have hope, of course, for like the person that you're with? Like, they're not going to stay where they are, of course. But at the same time, it can be very easy to say, oh, well, I met him at church. That's a good sign. Look at the data. X, Y, and Z amount of people aren't even going to church. Like, he goes to church. He may not go every week. He may be late. He may, fall asleep, but at least he goes. And I can work with that. And I can help him to start reading his Bible, or for him to start serving. Or, if I serve, he sees the way that I serve, he's going to start serving too. And let's do Bible studies together. And I'll kind of help him along. And we're just so focused on the potential of what could be, the hope. Women love to hope. And that's a beautiful thing. And you should be that way. But also at the same time, you need to pay attention to the evidence and to the patterns as well. And it can be very easy to not give enough credit to patterns and to evidence as we do hope. And a lot of times you guys know, if you've been hanging out with us for a while, we a lot of times equate dating to one big, long, sometimes year-long job interview, where it's okay, if we're going to have conversations, we maybe see some on the job shadowing or whatever the case is, a lot of conversations, but to see if you were up for this job of being my spouse. And a lot of times, when you go on a job interview, they're looking at your history, where you've been, what you've done, who you've worked with and worked for in the past. Now, is that the complete picture? Of course, if you're able and capable of doing this next job? No. They're going to have conversations with you. They're going to see how you think. They're going to think about what their needs are in this new person and this new role that they're hiring for. But a lot of what they're going to do, and the reason why you even got in the room most likely is because they looked at your resume. They looked at what you had done before you got there, on top of your personality and your dreams and your aspirations and your skill set, and kind of the room to grow. And I think that a lot of times in dating, we don't give enough weight to people's resumes. We don't give enough weight to their patterns and their behaviors. And whenever people start dating, and people come to us and say, oh, I started dating so-and-so, or I'm looking at so-and-so. What do you think about them? One of the first things they always ask is who is the last person that they dated and why did it end? And so many times people don't know. They don't know why the person that they're interested in, why their last relationship ended. Oh, but he's telling me this and that, and we align on this, and we're both excited about that. We both believe X, Y, and Z. I'm that's awesome. They're probably lying to you. Not intentionally, where they're oh, I'm about to fool this person, but it's more about you're excited. It's a highly emotional kind of situation, and you say whatever a lot of times you want to say in order to keep things going, and we all do it. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But if you're dating somebody or you're interested in somebody and their last relationship ended because of breaking boundaries, because of lust, because of abuse, because of a lot of other, list of things where it's all right, their communication broke down, they ghosted them, whatever, it's a very high chance that that's going to happen, again. And I don't think people give enough weight to that. So that's what I mean by potential versus patterns. Pay attention to the patterns. Before you get emotionally attached to somebody, Do your research. Find out what their history is like. They never dated anybody before. Okay, like that's cool. Why? Why is that? Let's talk about that. Oh, this is their 10th relationship this year. Okay, why? Like, let's dig into the patterns.
Yeah. Now, the second lie that you want to look out for, you can just ask yourself, are you doing this? Is you believe that they're the one, quote unquote, even when God keeps sending you signs that they're not. So we want to be very careful that we don't get in relationships and we are trying to convince God that the person we're with is who he wants us to have. Instead, we need to get in relationships and we need to be aligned and make sure that God is telling us that this is the person that we should move forward with into marriage. And you just want to be careful because it can be really hard and really subtle, those lines. And here's some things that you can look to evaluate this. Is the relationship making you less peaceful? Mm-hmm. Is this relationship causing you stress? Whether it be you're always arguing or fussing or fighting, or whether it be you guys are perfect in the sense that you always have a great time when you're together, but ever since you started this relationship, now you don't serve at church anymore. Mm-hmm. Or you started slipping at projects at work because you're distracted. Like, the person you're with should be helping you move closer to all that God has for you, not just spiritually, but practically. So if that's not happening, then you need to step back and be like, all right, is this person really best for me? The other thing is making decisions that don't line up with who you want to be. So if you're with somebody, they should be helping you be your best self. They should be helping you grow and want to see you grow, not pushing and pulling you back further away from all that you want to do. And then here's some lies that we believe, just some other quick ones that we kind of say to ourselves. They'll change after we get serious. So this person, they may not be doing everything that I feel like is best for me to be with somebody, but I think once we get together, they'll get their stuff together. They'll figure it out. Like, they're so good in all these other areas. This one area that they struggle in that actually is detrimental for me, I believe when we get together, they'll get it together. Yeah. And the other thing is, I'll feel peace later if I just give it time. Like, maybe I don't feel peace right now about this being a relationship I should be in, but let's just see how the next few months go. Maybe the peace will come. Those are some things that you want to be mindful of. And this verse in 1 Corinthians 14:33 says, "For God is not a God of disorder, but of peace." And that's just something to be mindful of if you feel like things in your life are starting to get out of order. God isn't first anymore. You're not journaling in the morning. You're not worshiping. You're not reading your Bible in the morning. Instead, you're texting and talking to this person that you're dating. Are your priorities out of order? You're not serving and building God's kingdom anymore. All you do is plan date night and go on cute trips. Like, we got to make sure that the relationship that we are believing for isn't going to take us away from the God we believe in. And just ask yourself, am I being honest about what this relationship is? Mm-hmm. Or am I hoping if I wait long enough, this relationship will become what I want, and ultimately I'll believe that this is what God wants? So those are some questions you can ask yourself just to make sure, like, again, pausing, taking a step back, making sure you're evaluating where you are so that you can make good decisions. So we've talked about lust. We've talked about lies that we believe when it comes to relationships. Let's talk about what real love actually looks like. Can you define it for us?
Real love is rooted in commitment, service, and truth. It's
real love.
I'm talking about that bad love. So it's really about showing up for somebody, which we talk about so much.
Ooh, I tried to hit that joint. That was bad.
Is that what you did?
I tried to. I was trying.
Tim thinks he can sing.
No. First of all, you know,
oh, Lord, here we go.
I'm a little under the weather right now. So that's why my voice is off. That's why it's off. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway. So yes, love is showing up for someone. Hopefully first you're showing up for God. And that's obviously a huge indicator of, like, if this is love or not. Is like, you cannot truly love someone if you haven't first experienced love for yourself, which true love is God. God is love. especially when feelings fade. So like kind of honeymoon phase is over, the butterflies are gone. This is another reason why it's good to date for a year if you can, to kind of see what that person is like when all of the emotional highs are gone. But love is slow, it's kind, it's sacrificial. Obviously 1 Corinthians tells us that love is patient, love is kind, it is not self-serving, it does not boast, it does not keep records of wrongs. And those are very practical examples that the Lord gives us of what love is. And like, you can't be, they kind of go in order. Like, you have to first be patient to be slow. So if someone's already rushing you down the aisle or to the bedroom or just down certain kind of next steps in their relationship, that kind of already gives you an indication, like, is this person making decisions out of love or out of fear? Because love does not rush. Love is patient. It could say, hey, I would love to marry you as soon as I possibly can, but whatever the Lord wants, whatever God's timing is for us, is ultimately what I want. I want what he wants for us. If it was up to me, I would get married tomorrow. And that's what I felt like our heart was. It was like, yeah, if it was up to us, we would be about it. But it's like, that's not what the Lord wants. I feel like we're rushing a little bit, like, for what? So, yeah, those are just some examples.
Yeah, and I remember looking back, because sometimes you can be like, all right, well, how do you know if your love is real for somebody? And I think all the things you just said there are great ways to look. Like, is this person committed to me? Do they tell the truth to me? Do they show up for me even when they don't like me?
Yeah.
Like, we just got in an argument, but now we got to go to this function. Like, are they giving me the cold shoulder at the event? Or can they put on a brave face, not being fake, but just showing up being respectful, exactly, in that event, and making sure that they're still showing up for me to make sure it's a great event. So I remember when we were dating, you definitely were there for me and committed for me, because I was still learning how to not be lazy. When we first started dating, I was in college and I was having some issues with my classes and not really studying. And once we started dating, I definitely got better with that. And actually, honestly, every quarter after that, or semester after that, I made the dean's list. So shout out to you. Again, that's an example right there, man. Practically,
I know.
Girl. Practically of somebody making you better. Like, if I would have flunked out of even college even more, if from us starting to date, like, that would have been a sign you ain't good for me. But the fact that I was going to another level in my life because we were together is a sign that you were a good person for me. Now, I bring this up because Pauline never condemned me, never judged me when I told her, like, hey, I'm struggling with this. And even when we first were dating, I wasn't perfect. Like, there were still some assignments or classes or tests or things that I didn't fail or I didn't do right all the way. But you still stayed with me, and you never made me feel less than because of those situations. And understanding that real love is being able to stay with somebody through the good times and the bad, for sickness and in health, richer and poor. Like, that's what real love is. It's commitment. Yeah. If you think about God, he loves us. He's committed to us no matter what we do or say. His love will not change because he doesn't change. And I asked you because I feel like somebody listening to this dating could be like, yo, like, that's cool for y'all, but like, why the heck did Pauline stay with you if you was out here flunking? Like, that don't sound like a, not that you talk like this, but a high value man, or that doesn't sound like something that I want to be a part of. And I asked you, like, and I would love for you to share, what made you stay with me despite me showing some major flaws at that time?
So I think I don't exactly remember what I said to you when we talked about this a few days ago, but I think what at the time why I was like okay with dating you while you were flunking your classes, taking winter classes, you had speeding tickets, going to court.
Well, okay, let's stay on school. Let's stay on school.
I mean, it was all happening at the
college.
Why don't you want to talk about that?
We gotta stay focused.
They already paid off, so it's fine. But I don't think you have any points on your license today.
Oh my gosh. Stay focused.
But the reason why I was okay with that was honestly humility. Now, I kind of fall on the bad side of being prideful and feeling like, oh, ain't nobody, like, that's not me, I don't want that associated with my name. If we're going to be together, then everything needs to be on its P's and Q's, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time that we started dating, or a little bit before we started dating, God had put me in my own, like, wilderness season where I was not working full time. I had made a very big faith decision to move somewhere without any plan. And yeah, it was I was very humbled. I was on my face before the Lord quite often, and I kind of felt like, I wasn't in a place to really judge you. Like, my life wasn't together either. I felt like I had failed. Not failed, but I was just in a very kind of desperate situation on my own, and like things were not looking good for me on the kind of surface level. And we joke about it all the time. Like, God did that, of course, for a reason, and of course He's used it all looking back almost 10 years later. But it definitely helped, because I think that if I was like on my boss girl stuff and was making the money that I wanted to be making and working where I wanted to be working and like had all my ducks in a row, like how I felt like I should have, I probably would have looked down on you a little bit more.
A little bit more
than I did.
I was already looking down on me?
I wasn't looking down on you as a person. I was just more of like, this situation is like, yeah, it's got to improve.
Now, let me...
I have something else to say. Now, on the other side of that, it was more about, this is a trial. So, like, we're dating, right? Like, we are dating. We're in a relationship. We're figuring this out. Is this what God has for us? We like each other. We like... Because I feel like you start to date somebody, like, you enter in a relationship with them. At least for me, I entered in a relationship with you because I was like, all right, I like his personality a lot. He's attractive. A lot of the character things seem to be in place. Great recommendation, great reputation. Let's try it out and see. This isn't an engagement. I wasn't committing to forever. Like, I still had freedom to leave, and like there was nothing, we weren't living together, whatever. So it was very low risk in that sense. But it was like, all right, you're in this situation with school. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to come out on the other side? Now, if you had taken those, because you had a winter class and you killed that winter class, you did really well, and you were working really hard to do well in that class. And that was kind of, I wasn't like in the background like, all right, like he better like get it together or I'm out of here. But I was just more of like, let's see what he's gonna do. I believe you, I support you, let's see. Like, let's trust and see. And you did great. And that was like, all right, awesome. He's exactly you just proved to me that you're exactly who I thought you were. And that's what dating is supposed to be. Like, all right, cool, you seem like this person. Let's go through some things together and see how you respond. And a lot of times that makes it hard, especially in like, not that I want to talk a lot about abuse because it's so sensitive, but like a lot of times I know people who go through domestic violence situations where like they know who the person can be, they go through a situation and the person acts completely out of character, and it's like, I don't even know who this is, and then it's like, oh baby, I'm so sorry, I won't do it again, and then they're like, all right, now let's go back to who you know that I am. It's like this vicious cycle, and that's what you want to see. What you don't want to see when you're dating is someone completely morph into somebody else, where it's like, okay, I met you, you were working this job, you're a hard worker, you're serving at church, you're doing all these things, and now that we're in this situation, you're cussing, you're throwing stuff, you are acting out of character, you're not picking up phone calls, like whatever it is, where it's like, I don't even know who you are. Like, you are acting like, I thought I met you with one picture in my mind of you being like this, and now you're acting like somebody completely different. That's a red flag.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because, and going back to our context, obviously I was having issues in school, but you were fortunate to see me in other environments like church and like the job that we had on campus, but more specifically church, where you did get to see me in an element where I was showing that I had some character of being able to work hard and serve and do all of those things. And
wake up at 5 a.m.
I was able to show you that wasn't just that area, but that's who I was in general by how I persevered. So I think that's really good. Now, let's get to some tangible things to help you identify when you're in a relationship is this real love? Because real love, when you're in a relationship, will help you do these 3 things we're about to share. So the first thing is, it will help you prioritize your walk with God. Mm-hmm. So when you're with somebody, they shouldn't be drawing you away from the Lord. They actually should be drawing you closer.
Yeah.
Whether that's drawing you closer because you all are talking about what you read in the Bible or what was talked about at your church in the sermon, or just drawing you closer, like, Lord, I really like this person. Like, is this who you want me to be with? Is this the timing that you want us to get married? Like, you're checking in with the Lord. You're not running away from him, and you're not scared like, oh, like, I don't want to lose this person, so I don't want to hear what God has to say in case he don't like it. Like, you're actually pursuing the Lord and making sure it's right.
Another way of that, too, that I think is important, just like being real Christians, is like being with somebody who asks you, what did God say? What did God say to you this morning when you spoke to him? We do this in our marriage. What did God say to you about this giving amount? What did God say to you about buying a house, about having a baby, about switching jobs? Like, what is the Lord speaking to you?
And it doesn't have to be a pressure thing necessarily.
Okay. Well, as I said, what did he say to you this morning? What has God been teaching you lately?
I know, but I could hear somebody listening to this, maybe they're a little newer in their faith, and that feels like a lot. Like, somebody asks me every day, like, what God said. I'm not saying that that's wrong. You know, we're in agreement. But I just want to make sure everybody listening to this can hear
there should
in
be
the right
conversations
lens.
About, because you can obviously ask, and you should ask, how was church today? What did you learn? What did you take from the message? Things like that. Would you feel like God was speaking to you through the message? Of course, yeah. But there needs to be like more, like, it's just so big when people are at those decision points. And if you are dating for a year, which we hope that a lot of you are able to do, but like, even if you don't, like, when you're dating someone, you're watching their life. Like, this is an interview. You're watching their life. They're watching your life. And you're learning how they make decisions. Like, so talking about what is God saying, and it's okay to say, I don't know what he's saying right now.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to say, because I didn't want it to come across like every day you got a fresh word from God. You're telling me, like, yeah, this is exactly what God said. Like, it's not like that every day. So I just wanted to make that clear, because people get weird when you just start talking about spiritual stuff. So I want to make sure it was clear. But yes, you want to be talking about the Lord. Now, the second thing is wants to protect your purity, not pressure it. Now, let me say it again. You want to be with somebody, and you know that you're in a relationship that's pursuing love instead of lust, because you're with somebody who wants to protect your purity. They don't want to pressure your purity in the sense that they're putting pressure on you to lose your purity. And
compromise that.
Thank you. Or compromise on your purity. And what that looks like is they're setting up boundaries. Like, hey, let's not do this because that could lead to this. Or they're avoiding situations altogether. Hey, I don't even want to hold your hand or take you to Cabo or go to the pool, even if that's going to be a big issue.
Or the beach, or whatever.
And again, we're not saying if you do these things in your dating that you're sinful, like as far as like if you go to the pool. But it's just be smart. Know yourself. Like, is that the best environment? We definitely did not go to the pool together when we were dating, because it just was like, for what? And I think that's the thing that people that want to be on the margins of Christianity, if we're just being honest, they get upset about. Like, y'all Christians, y'all doing too much. Like, y'all can go to the pool. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Don't take all that. And you're missing the point.
Yeah. Like,
the point is not that, yes, we could go to the pool. The point is that if this is what God has for us, we're going to be married. There's going to be plenty of opportunities to go to the pool. We'll do that at that time. But right now, right here where we're dating, that temptation is not worth it. Now, again, that may not be something that's tempting for you. You'd be surprised. But for me, I knew that's an environment I didn't need to put myself in. So no matter what your struggle is, don't put yourself in a situation where you could struggle. That's just stupid. Now, the third thing includes wise counsel. So there's people in your life, whether it's married couples that you trust, whether it's pastors at your church, if you have access to them, whatever it may be, a connect group, small group leader. Like, do you have anybody in your life that knows about your relationship, that knows some of the things that you struggle with, that you're succeeding with? You want those people in your life. 1 Corinthians 13:7 says this: love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. Are you with somebody that even when bad times come, their faith is still there? Are you with somebody who, even when they have something that happens to them that they don't love, they can still find some hope in it? And we're not saying that somebody is perfect and they never have a bad day, but we're saying consistently,
patterns.
8 times out of 10, are they showing faith? 8 times out of 10, are they showing that they can be hopeful? Are they able to endure through circumstances? And are they able to show up for you when your relationship isn't the best? When you guys are in a little rough patch and you're arguing and you're fussy? And that's just why, this is a side note, this is why we talk about daycations. And why those can be good for you, because when you're out all day with a person and it's getting towards the end of the day and you're starting to get tired and cranky, like, what is y'all relationship like? Are y'all starting to just argue and now it's a silent treatment? You looking out the window the whole ride back home?
It'd be like that sometimes.
Or are you able to acknowledge, like, yo, you annoying me right now? I'm not really vibing with you, but I still rock with you. I still love you. And then you're able to work through that.
Because you can have hard moments, and you will, like in dating, but it's just a matter about how you guys manage them. It's not about like avoiding them or whenever conflict comes up. Because I know a lot of people didn't see their parents argue, so they don't know what healthy arguments look like. So they think like, oh, we're arguing, then this is not good. This is not the person for me. Absolutely not. Like, learn how to argue and have conflict and communicate through the conflict, because conflict is going. I mean, any two people at any point, whether it's you and your best friend, your coworkers, your siblings, like any two sinful people together are, over a good enough amount of time, are going to have conflict. Now, one thing I wanted to add about what you were mentioning about protecting purity and like someone basically being prudent and having a forethought to say like, oh, I don't want to put you in a compromising situation or whatever, but myself. And like, that's good. And like, yes, you like that heart is good to have and like honors God. But I think another way that that shows up, in addition to what you were saying, babe, is like somebody who asks questions. I think you did a really good job of this when we were dating, and you do a good job of it now. Because, you know, I think if you don't honor, especially if you're a guy, if a guy doesn't honor your purity when you're dating, he cannot honor your heart when you're married. So if it's a matter of like, oh, well, you're my girlfriend, I'm entitled to this, to your body, to spending time with you in this way, I want to show you love in this way or that way, well, you have to be able to honor those boundaries, so that like when you recognize how precious a person is, this goes for men and women obviously, because men have hearts and emotions, and men need to be loved tenderly and gently in marriage and otherwise too. But like, if you cannot honor a person's soul, like their purity, it's gonna be like when you're dating, it's gonna be really hard when you're married to treat them with that same honor and like kind of like look at them as this precious gem and treasure that the Lord has given you, because you didn't look at them like that when you were dating. You took possession over them, like, oh, this is mine, I can stomp on you, not literally stomp on you, but like I can treat you however I want to treat you because you're my girlfriend, you're my boyfriend. And that's not, they're first God's daughter and God's son, and you have to keep that heart in marriage as well. But it's hard to do when you haven't cultivated it in dating. So one thing that you do a good job of is like asking questions of like, hey babe, you know, I want to do this, but like what do you think about it? Are you comfortable with this? Would you want to do this or that? Instead of just saying, oh, I made this decision, this is what's best for us. And if you have that heart in dating where you're like, oh, I'm the man, I'm the protector, I bought us tickets to go to Cabo, and it's like, I don't want to go. Like, that's not, oh, well, aren't you grateful, like, that I bought this for you, bought you this bag, or did whatever. It's like, ask questions, get to know the person that you're with, because what triggers you may not trigger them. What you like, they may not like. Like, you have to learn how to constantly, like, curate this culture of curiosity. There's three C's in there. Cultivate a culture of curiosity in your relationship, so that can carry over to marriage, where you're like, hey, it's good to be excited, it's good to want to give your person stuff and trips and gifts and all the things, but you need to learn how to ask them questions too. Because if you're thinking like, oh, beach isn't gonna bother me, let's go to the beach, and then she's sitting there like, I really like beaches, really trigger me, like this isn't gonna be a good day for me, that's gonna cause a lot of harm, and you're gonna be butthurt too, because, you know, that's why surprises are are like interesting. Like they're good at certain points, you know, of a relationship, but you have to make sure you just ask a lot of questions before you start making assumptions about like what's best for the person that you're with.
Yeah. And I like what you were saying earlier too about conflict and like not avoiding that, because being able to go through conflict and successfully making it on the other side of that, and then being able to ask questions and learn about your partner and what they really like and don't like and need and don't need. Like those are the things that help you build a relationship. Mm-hmm. And those are things that you want to ask yourself, are we building love or are we chasing feelings solely? Like that's all we're doing. And vibes. Like just, you want to ask yourself that. Now here's 2 other questions, some self-reflection that you want to ask yourself as you're going through your dating process. Have I invited community and godly counsel into this? We've talked a lot about that. Mm-hmm. And then, would I still want this person if physical affection was removed? Now, I know that may sound confusing because it's like, well, I wouldn't date them if I thought they was unattractive. That's not really what we're saying. Because here's the thing.
You can get, and attraction are not the same thing.
You can get married and God forbid something bad happens and your spouse looks completely different, or they're not able to show up for you physically in the way that they once were able to. Mm-hmm. What else is there?
Right.
Is there friendship there? Is there character? Is there laughter? Is there joy? Like, is there anything else you can hold on to when you're married outside of they was fine?
Right.
Because if there's not, you're going to be in some trouble, because something super bad may not even happen. Something great may happen, like having a baby. But guess what? Your wife's not going to be able to show up for you for at least 6 weeks, sometimes longer. Mm-hmm. How are you going to handle that? Is there anything else about her that you like? Is there anything else about her that you can hold on to? Right. To help you continue to show up and serve and love her the way she deserves? So, final takeaways. We talked about a lot today. You want to make sure, and here's how you can quickly just remember how you are either in a relationship that is about lust or is it about love. And remember, lust takes, love gives. Lies confuse you, love clarifies.
Yes.
And real love looks like Jesus. Mm-hmm. Serving, sacrificing, showing up when you don't want to, loving when it's inconvenient. That's real love. So if you're with somebody who serves you when they don't want to serve you, who shows up for you when it's inconvenient, and who suffers physically because they not having sex even though they want to.
Other ways too of suffering.
I know, but that's just an easy way for them to get it. That's what you want to look for.
Yes.
So if that was helpful, let us know in the comments if this gave you clarity. And the cool thing is, we are doing a little series right now talking about love and what it really looks like. So in the next episode next week, we're going to dive into how to apply 1 Corinthians 13 love in your actual dating life. Because I feel like that's a verse that comes up at weddings a lot.
Yeah.
But what does that look like in dating?
Yeah.
Because I'm not married, but how do I apply that to where I am now? We're going to unpack that, and we can't wait to do it. We'll see y'all next week on the W Podcast.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this video.
To get more Christian relationship advice, subscribe to our channel.
And make sure you check out our other videos as well.